This is the Eiffel Tower, one of the most popular buildings in the world. And this is my Minecraft world. Pretty boring. So I'm gonna build it and so many other popular buildings in my world to make it more interesting. I first want to start with the CN Tower in Toronto. It's a pretty tall building, so let me first make the outline of it. Yeah, when I said it was tall, I meant it. Now let me make the base of the building right down here. There we go. Now I just gotta raise these blocks all the way up to the top. And finally, let me build the overlook area right up here. And there we go. The first build is done. Now I want to build the most popular builds in the world, and this is the smallest one out of all of them. Just wait till you see how big the last few builds are gonna be. They are ginormous. I now want to move on to the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. It says it in the name, but it will be leaning, which is gonna be a bit tougher to make. Let me first build the center pillar all the way up. Just like this. There we go. It looks a bit boring, but so let me add some more detail. All around this pillar, let me just add some columns to keep it from falling over. Something like this. And now I gotta continue this all the way to the top. And boom. It's looking so good, and we're almost done with it. The final thing that I want to add is the top pillar that's a bit thinner than the rest. Nice, and only one more thing. There's a bunch of builds at the top of the build, so let me add them made out of gold blocks right here. And boom! The Leaning Tower of Pisa is fully complete. Not too bad. This next build is going to take a bunch of stone. And luckily, I've been letting this cobblestone farm run for a while. So, yes, the chests are all full. Just gotta fill up all of these shulker boxes with cobblestone. And there we go. We can now start working on the build. This is a lot of cobblestone. I want to make the Pantheon in Rome. And unlike the first two builds, this one isn't tall, but instead really wide. So let me first make the outline of it. Just like this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's pretty big. Well, at the front right here, there's a bunch of pillars, so let's add them. And there we go. Already looking pretty good. But now we have to move on to the walls and raise these all the way to the top. And we're done. Let's go. Oh. Well, yeah, that's the first side done. And now we just have to repeat that process again on this side. And there we go. The last thing we have to do is add this front area with the really cool roof. Let me first build the outline. Just like this. But now let's just finish building this. And boom! We're already done with the build. But for this one, the insides are even cooler than the outside, so let's work on it. I first have to remove the floor, just like this, and replace it with a pretty cool design. Something like this. And now I'm gonna have to build up all of these walls. It's gonna be separated by a bunch of archways, so let's do it. And the first layer is fully done. And now the second layer will be a bunch of windows, and then of course the giant roof. And boom. Now finally, in the real life build, there's a bunch of statues in every window, so all I have to do is add all of them in here. And there we go. The Pantheon is fully complete. These first three are nothing compared to the last. So let's keep going. For the next one, let's build the Empire State Building in New York City. Now this build will be massive and require over 40,000 blocks of sand. I don't want to mine all that. So instead, let me build a sand duplicator. I first just have to remove the end frames from the stronghold. These mushrooms will somehow just delete the frames. I don't know. But there we go. And now let's build it. Just like this. Now it doesn't look like anything's happening, but that's because all the duplicated sand is going into the end. So now we just have to go into the portal and build a collection system here. Hey, it's working. Let's go. Well, now we just have to wait till we get 40,000 sands. Okay, let's see how much we've made. Oh, yes, it actually works. We can finally begin on the build. And here we go. This looks like a pretty good spot for it. I first want to start by just building the base of it, which is basically just a giant rectangle. Just like this. Now the Empire State Building is just a bunch of boxes connected together. So let me now just add a few of them right here. Hey, looking pretty good. So at this height in real life, the build stops getting thinner and just goes straight up for a pretty long time. So now let's just build up to see how tall it will be. Oh! What? Well, yeah, it's super tall. I thought we were close to being done, but I guess not. Well, I guess let's just finish building it. And there we go. Oh, that took much longer than I thought. Finally, the last thing we have to add is the giant spire at the top of the build. And boom! The Empire State Building is fully complete. Oh, that took so long. Now we're getting into the really hard builds. I want to move on to the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia. This build is so big and will require about 15,000 blocks of mud bricks. But that means I'm going to have to go to a mangrove swamp and just mine this entire area out. There we go. Hopefully that will be enough. Now to make the actual bricks, I'm going to have to combine it with wheat. And there we go. I finally have all the mud bricks I need. And that means I can actually start on the build. It's basically just a really big platform over the water with a really large building on top. So let's use this ocean right here to build it on. And first, let's make the outline of the platform. Okay, now as you can see, this is gonna be ginormous. The actual build won't be that hard, it's just this giant platform that's gonna take so long. I now just gotta raise all of these walls up with my mud. Okay, this is hard. We've finally gotten tall enough to make the first giant shell right here, so let's build it. And boom, looking pretty good. So the Opera House has a bunch of these shells, and this one is the smallest of them all. So yeah, we still have a lot to go. Well, before we start on the other shells, let me just finish filling in the rest of this platform by continuing this mud pattern all the way across. Oh my gosh, this is taking forever. We're about halfway done filling this in, but it's so much harder than I thought. Well, let's keep going. Oh, finally! This was so annoying, but we're not even done. The Opera House is basically separated into two builds, with a bunch of shells stacked on each other. So, just so we can see how big they will be, let me make the outline for both of them. Okay, that was only one of the outlines, and it's pretty big. Let's just continue by building this left shell all the way up. Yes, oh my god, that was so annoying. It looks so sick, but it actually may have taken longer than the platform. And we still have another one of these shell builds to make right next to it. Oh my god. Well, luckily, this one is just slightly smaller, so maybe it will take less time. Hopefully. And there we go! Sydney Opera House is finally done. It looks so good, but let's now move on to the next build. Let's now work on the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Now, unlike the other builds, this will be made almost fully out of one material, and that will be birch planks. So, let's start gathering. Oh my gosh, that actually took pretty long. But we now have all the wood that we need. So let's start on the build. I first want to work on the legs of the Eiffel Tower. The four legs are all going to connect together to create a giant archway under the build. So let's make that right here. Hey, there we go. We finished about 1/3 of the entire build already. Well, now let's just make the next third of the build. And boom. As you can see, we're about halfway done and have placed so many of these X's all over the place. But we still have so many more to add. Now all we have to do is make the final part that goes all the way up to the top. So, let's do it. Oh, yes! We're almost done. The last thing we have to do is make the top part where tourists come to look at the view of Paris. So that's the fencing done to stop people from falling off, and let's just finish building the rest. And there we go. The Eiffel Tower is fully complete. Oh, it looks so good. And we only have 2 more buildings to go. This next one will be really tough because it is known as the tallest building in the world, which is the Burj Khalifa. There we go. We have gathered all the materials to make this, so we can finally start building it. This looks like a pretty flat area, so let's make it here. Now, I think the build is not only tall, but also super wide. So let's build the outline of it just to see how big it really is. And there we go. Yeah, it's pretty big. So before we start on the actual build, there's a bunch of small builds all around the Burj Khalifa that aren't connected, but just are there. So let's build those now. That's the first one done. That's the second. And that is the third. But there we go. We can now start on the actual build. It's gonna have the same pattern as the small builds, but it's just gonna be so much bigger. And boom! We've already built a pretty good amount of it. And as you can see, the build gets skinnier every time it reaches one of these iron bar layers. So that means that the taller that we get, the quicker it'll take to build. Hopefully. Well, let's keep going. And finally, we've finished 8 of the iron bar layers, which is pretty good progress. And we have gone through so many shulker boxes already, but we still have so much more to go. Well, luckily it gets super thin at this point, so hopefully we can finish the rest right now. I just have to build a small tower right here, but there we go. We have finally completed the Burj Khalifa, and it looks so cool. And, really tall. We only have one more popular build to go, and it will be the St. Basil's Cathedral in Russia. This will be the biggest of all the builds that we've made so far, so it's gonna take so long. It's gonna require over 35,000 blocks of orange terracotta, so hopefully this doesn't take too long. Let's now just go to a Badlands and gather as much as we can. No! We're only about 7 shulker boxes down, so not even halfway done. Well, okay, let me get a new pickaxe and just finish gathering all of this. And there we go. We have finally gotten all the terracotta that we need. Oh, that took so long. Well, the last thing we have to get is 20,000 blocks of warped planks, which is a lot. So let's find a warp forest and just start mining. That was so annoying to get, but there we go. I now have every material to build the cathedral, so let's start building it. Okay, this spot looks good, but even though this area looks flat, I'm gonna have to make this even more flat because this build is gonna be ginormous. So let's first flatten this area out and fill in all the holes. And there we go. I hated that. Now before we start building it, let me add the outline just to see how big it will actually be. Oh my god! Oh, finally! Just that outline took so long to make. While it doesn't actually look that big, the build will be so detailed and tall that it will be the hardest to make. Well, now I want to work on the one part of the build that isn't connected to the rest. It's gonna be this house type build, so let's start building it. There we go, it's almost done. But all we have to do now is just add the roof. Just like that. But now all we have to do is add a giant spire to the top. But there we go. That is the first build complete. We now have to build something similar to this, but only about 30 times bigger. Great. Let's now move on to this area, where we can start on the entranceway. It's going to be a big staircase that leads all the way up to the inside of the cathedral, so let's build it. There we go. Just the small part took so long. Well, now I gotta add walkways on both sides of the staircase that just take you further into the build. There we go, that's one side down, and now we just have to copy it onto this side. Just like this. Nice, it looks so cool. So in real life, if you look at the building from this side, it's completely symmetrical. So I just have to repeat this staircase and walkway onto the other side. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. And there we go. That was tiring. Well, it's looking so good. But now all we have to do is connect the two walkways with the giant spire that is super tall. First, let me just make the base of it right here. Just like this. And now I just gotta add the giant spire and roof on top. This cathedral is known for having extremely colorful balls on the spires, and this will be the first one that we will make. This first one will be made from green and red, so let's just finish making it. But there we go. The first spire is completely done. Now I think there's 9 more of these across the build, so yeah, we still have a lot more to go. I want to die. Let's make another one of these spires. This one will be connected to the walkway that we made right here, so let's start building it. This ball will be even cooler with red and white colors, but there we go, that is the second one done. Now again, because we made a spire on this side and it's symmetrical, I have to add one on this side. Yay, more building. There we go. It's starting to look so cool, but we still have so much more to go. Let's start working on this roof. On both sides of the center spire, we're gonna have to add 2 more of them, just a bit smaller. This first one will be yellow and dark green, and then the second one will be yellow and lime green. Hey, looking pretty good. If you look at it from this side, it almost looks completely done. But from this side, not so much. Right now, I want to work on the rest of the walls. This pathway continues through this middle spire right here, so let's just continue building it. But there we go. Now again, there's gonna be a giant spire in the middle of this side, so let's quickly just build it right here. Boom! How was that transition? That was tiring, but we're almost done with the walls. All we have left to do is build this small little circle room right here. Just like this. Now over here, the building for some reason just has a small overhang, so let's just quickly build it. There we go. And now finally, let's just finish building the rest of the wall. Let's also just finish building this tiny little spire right here. But boom! All of the walls are now done, and it looks so sick. All we have left to do is to add the roof and a bunch of the spires that aren't completed yet. That's still a lot. Well, okay, it's actually not that much. I'm just gonna have to repeat these 2 corner spires onto this side, one with the same pattern as the other 2 we just made, and then this one will be blue and red, like this. But we're finally at the last thing. Right in the middle of this cathedral is a ginormous spire that's almost twice the size of everything else. Let me first build the base of it right here. Just like that. Oh my god, we're almost done. But now we just have to build the rest. But there we go! The St. Basil Cathedral is fully complete, meaning we have finished the most popular buildings in the world. This video took so long to make, so please subscribe. Please.